Hello and welcome to another episode of Stories in the Room. I'm Rajana from Speakers Story Bank, and thank you all for joining us. We've had the pleasure of doing this series probably over the last 3 years. They serve the purpose of three audiences. We, of course, want our industry colleagues to learn more about each other. That's a big one. We want speakers to learn about the agencies that are out there that they could work with. And we want speaker buyers, meeting planners, anyone who is bringing a speaker thought leader to a stage to understand the behind the scenes of the business a little bit more and to get to know some of these wonderful, wonderful agencies. So with that, I want to bring in, of course, my dear friend, strategic storyteller, communications architect extraordinaire, Dr. Rod Berger. Rod, my friend, come on
I always
in.
love these openings. What are you doing tomorrow at 8 a.m.? Let me start my Friday.
Let me tell you, bring me in to intro you anytime.
Who's your plus one? No, it's a complicated story, but she's going to intro me.
Oh my gosh, you don't really need introduction. Let me tell you, anyone that is following you on LinkedIn right now, my friend, you are proving what we are talking about behind the scenes and what we're going to talk about here with the co-founders of Gravity Speakers, a new kind of a speaker that is really out there. You're using AI in interesting ways. You're creating, when we talk about even a creator economy, there's a new wave of that for even the speaker. You're bringing ideas alive in front of audiences, behind the scenes, through these social media platforms, but in a really authentic way. So as we always start, I like a little quick update from you. How are you feeling about all of this? How are people seeing you? How are, again, meeting planners, speaker buyers reaching out to you because of this? Because you're doing something very different out there and it's sticking.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I hope it is for sure. I mean, look, it's funny you say that about the public side of it because I've been in the lab for the last easily 6 weeks, so I haven't been posting as much. But look, I had to force myself. It's like we were talking about this offline with the folks we're going to be chatting with today in this episode, but you can't be static, right? I sort of equated to back when we were going to school, right? It was like that textbook you had, that if you had a sibling that was 2 or 3 years younger, they'd eventually have the same textbook when they landed in that same class, right? It was sort of there. It was these legacy systems. And I'm finding that this entire industry, you have to be able to pivot and move and be open. It's like my buddy Max, who I know a lot of people know, and all the speaker reels he's been working on. He's an absolute
Yeah, doing
dynamo of a
great job.
talent and an Emmy award-winning editor. And I know he's been bringing speakers in to help craft different ways to tell their story through reels. So that's what I've been doing. I've been launching new websites that represent what I've been doing, and I've been doing a lot of writing. Here's the one fun thing, though, that I'm trying to push myself creatively. And you're a parent, Rajana. So I wrote a 4-book series with my soon-to-be 12-year-old for tweens.
Wow.
And it's done, and it's complete, and she doesn't know it, but her brother read every manuscript to give his seal of approval.
Uh-huh.
But what a fun thing to be able to talk about story and the impact and influence, whether it's a spoken word or not, and to do that with
Yeah.
her. So I'm really excited about that.
Oh, wow. I love that because just this summer, my 13-year-old daughter, I brought her in to clip TikTok reels. I haven't posted yet. I'm going to launch them. You're going to be in some of them. I've given videos of my speakers from Speaker Story Bank that we've worked with. And I'm like, watch these videos. Tell me what's going to go viral. What's the 30 seconds you think from a 13-year-old mind? But it's my sneaky way of getting her to learn from all these incredible thought leaders because my kids are sick of me talking about it at the kitchen table. So I'm like, oh, be my producer for TikTok. So I love this.
It's a great way to sneak it in. And the other real quickly. So I started up the second season of my podcast with Fair Observer. That's an international publication, 90 countries. And I've been able to interview like former MI6, CIA, prime ministers. And like yesterday was the former press secretary for Israel, whose brother was the prime minister. And before that, it was, a diplomat out of Switzerland. And it's just incredible stories of these people and these legacies, which for me keeps the motor, everything fresh in that regard.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, anyway, we have a great show today because Gravity Speakers, I'm so excited to bring in the co-founders of Gravity Speakers, Nausheen and Ricky, a husband and wife team duo, which many in our industry might not even know. That's why we love this show, right, Rod? Because even for the industry leaders who work alongside them, if you don't know the nuance of your colleagues, your industry colleagues, we're all collegial competitors in some way, but we're here to elevate the stories we share, the people we put on stages, because at the end of the day, I think we can all say that we are all lucky to be a part of an industry where we're helping put information out there that is more positive, that is guiding people towards better actions. With all the negative news out there, these are the stories in the room that we want to share. So with that, Ricky and Nausheen, please join us.
Hello.
Guys.
Nice
How are
to
you?
see you all. I'm so excited for this.
It's like we're having dinner or something. We've just ran. The table is ready, Marjana. We're all set.
It's just here.
It's funny because, typically we're right next to each other. So if you see me kind of looking over to my side, I'm actually looking at him, although we're in different boxes.
She's like, who's on screen?
Some people ask, it's like, you guys really sit that close when you're working? And we're like, well, we're actually married. So, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I love that. Well, Rod, if you don't mind, because I know you're going to do the personal deep dive, but I have to ask the question at the top of this is people want to know, how did you get married first and then decided to start a speaker bureau? Did you meet in the speaker bureau world? Like, what is the story of Ricky and Nausheen and then Gravity Speakers?
Sure.
Okay.
Shall I take this
You
one?
take this one.
So yeah, we've been married for 17 years now. So we started at being married first. So we made sure that we actually liked each other for a good 10 years. But Gravity's been around since 2018. So now it's coming up to 7 or is it 8 years at this stage. So basically we've definitely grown together and lived our life together and tried different versions of what we were going to do as far as career, as far as work. And then we got together. We do have a 6-year-old son. So he came after Gravity. So he's our new up and coming employee here at Gravity Speakers.
Oh, yeah. I look forward to seeing what he comes up with. So 2018, bring us back to what got you inspired to start a speakers bureau?
Yeah.
So I had actually come out of the speaker bureau world. I was part of a different agency that was pretty close to where we were living at the time. Really just enamored by the industry. I just learned that speakers existed, speaker agents existed, and that this whole world of conferences and events existed as well. And it was just something I just deeply resonated with. And I would come home and tell Nausheen all these stories about the industry and what I was actually doing. And it was all fresh and new at the time. I came out of a career in finance. So everything I was doing every day was completely new, learning every single day. And that was the impetus of just the kind of starting something that we were going to eventually build to this.
I was at a crossroads. I had been working right before starting Gravity as an operations supervisor at a drug and alcohol rehab. And that was a complete left turn for me because I came from mortgage banking and all that. So doing that for about 2-3 years, it got to me. And I was just like, babe, I need to take a year off. I can't think straight. I can't get on the freeway. I'm literally having a panic attack. So it was like full on burnout. But as I kind of gathered energy and he would come home and tell me about all these things, I'm like, this is so up our alley. Like, we love talking to people. We love learning about folks. And this just feels like a shoe-in. And in San Francisco, you throw a rock, you're going to meet somebody interesting. So build it and they will come. And that's literally what happened. We just was like, we have some good speakers in our back pocket. We have some good clients already coming along. So let's just start our own thing.
Yeah. Well, you live it. Your tagline about, the world doesn't need more voices. It just needs better ideas. It seems like that's really what you've been leading your agency with, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Because there's so many folks out there who have something to say and say it well. And it's hard to break in. So for some reason, I think our natural instinct with just Ricky and I's personality is kind of being the connector. It's always been that way, from friends, from family. It just always felt like a thread that's always been a through line for our life. So it just kind of came out naturally.
Yeah.
For us.
Well, I definitely want to talk a little bit about the industry right now and what we're seeing with all of this market saturation. And we're talking a lot about differentiation. And yes, always talking about that with speakers. But I want to kind of turn the focus on the speaker bureau space specifically, right? We have management companies as well. But what do you think about the need? Some of us will say we all look the same, sound the same, sell the same. Other people will say, yeah, but that's okay. We're in competition with each other, but not really. We're really in competition with all of the speakers out there that are doing their own piece of business as well. and not
Mhm.
enough meeting planners and buyers know about the Speaker Bureau world or the value
Mhm.
of working with us. So I'd love to hear from both of you. And Nausheen, if you want to start, where you see the value in differentiating. Is it important? Is now the time to do it better?
It is so hard I can't like imagine being a speaker out there doing it on their own, being an independent speaker. Can be easier because you're solely focused on what you're doing and how you can improve. But holy moly, is it lonely. So at least we have the benefit of being exposed to a whole bunch of different options when it comes to personality, when it comes to perspective, when it comes to background. So the more we know, the more we do our job better. But obviously, it's overwhelming as well as an agent to just be exposed to all of these different voices. So to stand out from the crowd, it really requires us asking the right questions to these speakers. And really, we're always thinking in the concept of what is it that we're looking for? What are you trying to book for? What's the audience, right? What is that topic set? But more than anything as well, what's the personality? How is the energy going to be transferred over from for it to be translated from the speaker to the buyer. So like the bureau's role or the agent's role is like you can't really put a price on how devoted we are, that all we're doing is immersing ourselves in the different ideas and different ways and vehicles that these ideas are going to be transferred through. So I think that in terms of the agent's role and how bureaus are invaluable in that process is like that's all we're doing day in, day out. Is we
Yeah.
have such a good mass pool and we can kind of aggregate like what's really the message out there that kind of translates. It can
Yeah.
also be kind of deeply personal in the sense that everybody has their own tastes. So I guess between bureaus itself as well, that's kind of how things get differentiated. It's what's my take.
Absolutely, their focus.
Yeah.
Ricky, what do you think from the buyer side? How do we get more buyers to know the value of a speaker's bureau? What do you see? Anybody listening here, any meeting planner, speaker buyer, what is the value of working with Gravity or with any speaker's bureau that people trust?
Yeah, great question. At the heart of it, we're not reinventing the wheel, right? At the heart of it, we are connecting people and organizations for thought leadership. I think it always comes down to service and how you ask for things. And I think if we are asking just one question when we have an organizer that we're working with, is do you have other buyers? Do you have other companies? Do you have other people in your network who do this sort of speaker bookings? We work with a great company, ask for referrals. We have to lead with our service. And I think that's ultimately what's going to be our differentiator, is how we lead with service, and with speakers, how we lead with collaboration. So I think that's probably the driving force.
I'd like to add on something to what Ricky said, because we had a wonderful conversation yesterday. We met with one of the speakers, Josh Dream, just to kind of have a shout out there since we just had lunch with him yesterday. What was interesting about in terms of what the bureau also brings is because we have such a large sample size of the types of events that have been effective and not effective. We get to also educate the buyer and let them know, hey, what are you really looking for? Like really think about what the point is. Why are you asking for a celebrity speaker? What is the draw for this? Are you really looking to change, or are you looking to just fill seats? So that's a huge plus. Sometimes we're educating new new buyers who are booking speakers for the first time. So they're not really aware of what they really need.
Yeah.
So,
Rod, I want to put you on the spot because you are a speaker. And as you look at and have looked at the marketplace, the saturation, and as a speaker looking at different bureaus and partnerships, it's all about who's going to champion you the right way, know you. What are you seeing right now in this saturated market, and how you even as a speaker are looking at it, even buyers that you might know who might be looking at it? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have a few. A shout out to Outspoken and those fantastic leaders at Outspoken, because they're representing me now, and I couldn't be happier about that. And I'll use them as sort of the tent pole in this way. Look, what I appreciate is the authenticity around it and the way in which they approach that, because by default, I've had a number of experiences where it's felt very rinse and repeat. And when I really challenge myself, whether it may be an issue my kids having at school academically, or it's something in the community, I think to myself, where in life can we just rinse and repeat in the world that we live in? And if I can't find very many examples or exemplars, then I don't know if that's what I want to collaborate with in this space, because to me, it's about creativity. It's about that unique experience that you have in a room with an audience and a client that has a passion for finding a different way to communicate and influence and impact. And that requires really flexibility in the way in which we think. And so, like I said, shout out to my friends and folks at Outspoken, because they represent that for me in spades. And I will tell you off the record that I hear speakers that say to me, they're looking for that sort of the classic, this is the routine, here's what we're doing. And after that first phone call, you're just getting shoved down a roster. That's really disheartening for folks. And I think forces to what you said in the opening around people doing it independently or trying to find their own way.
Yeah.
And so everybody at the table has to understand that.
And I definitely want to toss it over to you, but I want to close on that one point, because as you all know, I come from the bureau world, 16 years in a global leading agency, and I love the bureau world. I mean, there's so much value for any meeting planner, speaker buyer working with any good bureau. And I will just say to anyone listening, it's not, you don't get shoved down or not thought about because they don't care. There's just a lot of volume. But to your point, Rod, this is the time that every single bureau needs to find a way to get in a little deeper, to dig a little deeper, to find the right speakers. And I think Gravity, Nausheen and Ricky, that's what I know you do. You actually have services that you offer to get to the heart of speakers as well. And even if you're not doing the services, I know you're doing an intake with your speakers before you even put them on your website, where you dive in deeper, try to really understand how to sell them.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we'll get into more of that. But right now, I want to make sure we have time for Rod to get into his deep dive, because this is the part I just get to sit back and listen and learn. So take it away, my friend.
We have no idea what's coming right now.
Oh, no, there's no worries. There's no worries. It's the movie, Meet the Parents, with Robert De Niro and Ben Stiller, right? The polygraph,
Yeah, exactly.
Early
Or is it, you are not the father?
You look like the doctor who's sitting on the polygraph.
Not at all. Look, I have to tell you, I'm so glad that you mentioned the intake component, Marjana, in the way in which Gravity and Nausheen and Ricky approach the folks that they work with. I mean, it sounds so subtle, but that's so impactful, I think, for people, because it sends a message that we want to get to know you. And if we know you, we may have a better idea of how we can all win in this industry. Small, but incredibly valuable, I think, addition to the way in which you guys work. Okay, so I have to... I love words, I love names, I love associations and taglines. I love this whole Oprah has Gail, Larry has Sergey, right? Batman has Robin. It's really great stuff. And you talk about being your trusty sidekick. So what I love about that is, and especially that you're married, is sort of there's your softball question, Ricky. I know now look, you're a middle child, so you're good. You read the room, right? Nausheen, you're head in hand, heart, right? You're right there feeling it, and he's checking it out. Who's the Batman in this relationship?
Oh, God.
Oh, goodness.
Depends on what we're doing, I think.
Yeah. Who is the Batman? Maybe I could be the Batman. I could be the Batman.
I tend to agree.
I think we're.
Is that because you're on the sales side of it?
I think so.
Yeah.
It used to be that way. We're pretty well-rounded now. We're both kind of tackled.
You've influenced each other.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, there was a point where what she was good at was what I was not good at, and what I was good at what she was not good at, and we complemented each other.
Yeah.
But as these years go on, we just keep getting more and more integrated, where it's like, I have to know what you're doing, you have to know what I'm doing, and now we're both kind of doing all of it at the same time. So
see, I'd love that. I mean, I know that's sort of a softball up the front. One, I think that the levity with which the way you communicate, your agency and just your work, I think is important. But here's what's so fascinating to me: gravity, right? So speaking, right, in an industry that sells uplift, elevation, and inspiration, you guys named your company after the one force that pulls down, right? So because gravity is invisible, nobody applauds it, and gravity is the only reason anything stays in orbit around anything else. Was that intentional? Tell me about that name. I can't believe it was just happenstance.
It's absolutely intentional. I've always thought, words hold weight. They have gravity. Not only are you trying to keep things within the orbit, but it's about attracting. It's the idea of pulling in. It's the idea of importance. And that the name, I remember like we were thinking about all these different names, throwing it out there. What should we call a company? What should we call a company? I'm like, I've always liked something sciencey, something that just feels like grounded. And when we saw Gravity, I think we passed over it the first time.
Yeah.
And then at the second or third round, we're like, you know what? Gravity speakers makes so much sense to us. It just resonates. But it is about how words hold weight and how we're trying to attract and kind of pull things together. We want things to be orbiting us.
Yeah,
versus
my
want them
read
to-
on it, Nausheen, on it was that there's a sense of permanence, which is like a foundation and a relationship of trust in that regard, as opposed to this sort of transient, sort of you change as the winds blow in different directions over time. Is that fair?
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
fair. That is
Yeah.
absolutely fair.
I'd love to go in, Nausheen, and go into your background with the addiction of the treatment center.
Yeah.
Because you brought it up, and my former life is in mental health and in many of those environments. So I have a sense of what it was probably like when you would be driving home after long days and stories that you didn't anticipate. But my hunch is that someone who can sense with great acuity sort of the emotion in the room, that those stories, and even if they weren't directed like where you were part of that story, but you were there tangentially and hearing and being a part of the environment where things were going on, that
I found myself wearing many hats while doing that tenure. I probably was doing things I was not qualified to do, but I had a natural tendency to just do it, meaning listen to stories, meaning understand, take in somebody's like lowest point in the time and try to flip it in a way like give more hope, which feels great and feels good in the time. But as you compound that with other stress of just generally running a company, because I was an operations supervisor. So taking care of not just the people who are coming there in crisis, but then helping the people who are working to help those folks, the counselors themselves. It was like a lot of juggling. And it was something new for me. So I definitely stretched myself emotionally just with my skill level and kind of coming up with processes. So it's so much learning, and it was such packed in time. After a while, it kind of just got to me. But I think that I had that's where I learned my natural tendency is to create processes, is also to connect with people. It's also to be
and that's a
interested
unique combination that you have in that way, right? Like I wouldn't say that I run across that all the time. You might have someone who's really good operationally, but maybe there's a struggle to sort of, drift over into that other side where you're feeling and sort of picking up what's going on, that sort of the reading the room. So I would think that experience, it's almost like it created more room in your mind, sort of your experience, your playground, right? And that I would think that would impact either the speakers that you find interesting, that you want to collaborate with, the way in which you might discuss them to a potential client. Is that fair?
That is very fair. I feel like I genuinely lean to that emotional side. I'm always thinking about like that inner purpose. Like, why is it that you want to do this? And is it translating coming out from you? So when I find myself asking questions with these speakers, I usually go a lot into that personal side. Like why are you even doing this? Like, what is the reason for the thirst for this particular thought leadership? Or why is it that you pick this lane? But I tend to skew more emotional than I do, I guess, like tactical, if that's a way to put it. So yeah, that's something I found out about in my personality as I went through that particular position.
I would guess that's probably quite valuable in what you and Ricky have built with Gravity. Ricky, I know that we joked a little bit before, just sort of, middle child, and you say that publicly, these sorts of things, right? And this uncommon vantage point that you've had or you had. And I'm curious, look, you opened in 2018 and all of a sudden COVID hits, right? As you're probably getting your sea legs. I'm curious as to the vantage point and how you both managed that, but how you particularly thought about it from a sales perspective, right? Because I would think it's kind of hard to drum up interest in something that's inspirational and motivating and transformational when there was so many unknowns. We didn't know what tomorrow would bring. And
Right.
was there a silver lining in that for you now that we look back 6 years later?
Well, yes. So we started in 2018, but like Nausheen mentioned, we had a few speakers who were willing to come over. We had many clients who were willing to come over. And although it was our first couple of years, we were quite successful in those first 2 years. And from that success, when everything stopped, the only calls we were getting is we're canceling our events, we're postponing our events, what kind of force majeures are actually kind of having to go on. We found solace in just knowing that the whole world had slowed down. It's not just us who slowed down. Everything actually slowed down, and everybody was going through this. We actually got pregnant during that time. So during that time, it was kind of like we had something else to think about, or actually like sort of something happy to think about during all this chaos that was happening around us. And I think ultimately what came out of it was something that was great for the industry. It gave us another avenue to showcase thought leadership, and that was virtual. I don't recall any virtual events that I did back in 2014, 2016, 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden at the end of 2020 into 2021, and certainly beyond that, people were really embracing virtual. And we said, wait, there is still a way for us to continue to work with clients, really kind of help them get through all of these uncertainties. And it ultimately served the industry very well.
You know, one thing you said earlier about sort of, you're talking about how you guys, because you've been married and you've been working together side by side, literally, that you've sort of leaned into each other's talents and skills and probably picked up some things. So a question that sort of peels that apart would be, in an industry where identifying talent is, I'm not going to say it's half the battle, but it's a little bit like, A&R or something in music where you're looking for the next person out there that no one's heard of that they need to hear about, right? So I'm curious as to, how do you maintain your individual taste while also understanding sort of the collective? I would think that that's gotten to be pretty sophisticated over time, where, Nausheen, you can spot, okay, Ricky's going to like this speaker, or, I know who he's going to think we should be sending, to the client. How have you guys navigated that?
So that's a great question, because in the sense that we both definitely have our own taste, and it's one of those like tag you're it. Like, okay, I like sell to me why this person's so interesting. But granted, we are both pretty darn similar in terms of our taste level. We do like a lot of the same things. I think that's why I've been successfully married for so long. So there are some folks that just sort of resonate with me a lot, and then we will just have this really frank conversation. And what it is, it comes down to trust. There's a lot of trust with, if like, it would be insulting for me to say what you like is not something great, because then I'm insulting myself, because I like you a lot. It's a lot of that. So I feel like that's kind of how we've navigated maybe two different ways of a person that may appeal to me, but then doesn't quite appeal to him. But he trusts me to know, like, okay, you see something special. That means there is something special with this person. So I think that's the long and short of it.
Ricky, where do you hold the line, Ricky, where you say, we're going to disagree on this, and we can wear the spouse hat or the professional hat? Like, do you have a line that you hold?
Absolutely. I think there's an evolution to this, right? At the beginning, it was mostly, I'm coming from the bureau world. I know everything. You're coming into this. I'm going to teach you about this.
I'm sure Nausheen does not remember those days. You don't remember?
Oh, I remember it well.
But at the same time, it's an outside perspective that's coming in to give a new perspective on how I'm looking at things, right? And as we continue to grow the bureau, as we continue to learn more about the industry itself, our evolution in discerning quality speakers, who's the right fit, who could potentially be that it person, it evolves over time. So I think we're at a place now that, to Nausheen's point, is that we're not disagreeing so much on who the speakers are. We have our goals. We have what we would like to see out of this. And ultimately, we tell every speaker, and if there's speakers on here who've heard us say this before, we have to like each other to work together. Ultimately, we don't want to work with assholes. So.
Yeah, you and me both. I don't.
Exactly. It's a deeply personal connection, and I trust my taste level. I trust his taste level, and it's really like some. It's like the kind of music that you like. Some people really like this, and it's not that it's bad. It's just maybe not my kind, but we trust that there's an audience out there for that. There's somebody for everybody. So
what's fascinating, Nausheen, with your background, right? So you in mortgage bank, all that, right? And as you sort of evolved, very transactional, right? And yet the thing that seems to light you up is the emotional connection and trust in communicating a message that might and hopefully does have makes a difference, has an impact on people. Have you sat back and thought about that arc for yourself? Because I think that's quite fascinating. And it actually says a lot about you that I would think, and Ricky's shaking his head, yes, that it says something about a person that maybe you start off in one area, right? And you sort of refine and build those skills. And then you say, I think there might be a little bit more. And you kind of keep going and going, not knowing where the future might take you.
Right. I just always knew what lit me up, and where maybe the mortgage banking thing, the job itself may sound transactional, but the environment in the office was not. It was hanging out with people. I loved my coworkers. I loved my boss. I stayed there for a very long time due to that. It also for the last part of that afforded me to stay home for I worked from home for basically like 6 years out of that time. And what that afforded me was to build out my relationships at home with my friends, with family. So everything kind of always related to hanging out with some good people. That's kind of what lit me up most. And so the work itself was it was just an accessory. It was a secondary to me. But the environment in which that work was getting done was the most important thing.
And Ricky, let's talk a little bit about your relationship to confidence, because you left the house in air quotes that trained you, right, and an agency. And I'm just curious as to those conversations you probably had internally with yourself when you started to, I would think, sort of check those internal boxes that say, I can do this, I can do that, timing is lining up. Help me understand that internal conversation and dialogue.
Yeah, very scary time when that happened,
Mhm.
and the agency actually went out of business. So I think we've heard speakers say before, or even entrepreneurship speakers, you have to fail to succeed. And so I was a part of a failing bureau, and we were a small bureau. It was just a few of us, and so I got a very intimate sense of we had a good thing going. Like, how can this not be something that's going to continue anymore? And to take all of that information and say, that's not how I would have done it, even though I don't know everything about this industry. That's, as a person, I wouldn't be doing this way. And it was mostly about managing relationships. And if that's the crux of it, I think we're pretty good at managing relationships. And I think if we just nurture and help grow relationships, I think ultimately it's going to serve everyone well whoever's in our orbit.
Yeah.
Were there core lessons that you saw, Ricky, that in that failure that seemed sort of confusing and baffling because there was talent in the room? I mean, I would think maybe there was a Band-Aid, sort of this bridge of second guessing, even when you left, to say, gosh, if it didn't work and these people were so talented and as a group we were talented, am I making the right choice? Are we making the right decisions? Did you have some of that go on?
I think if it was something I had to do by myself, I would have had more of those questions. But the support that we give each other, and the fact that I can bring something like this up and then say, and to not have Nausheen saying but this, but that, but saying how, and saying we can, that, I think that lends itself to us being able to succeed right out of the gate, because I had immediate support from this. It wasn't saying, well, if I can imagine her asking that question, well, if that didn't succeed, how the heck are we going to succeed?
Yeah.
But if we told ourselves, look, I love doing it, has to start with the love of doing it, right? I mean, it has to start with, you have to actually like what you're doing, right? And if you like what you're doing and you have support of what you're doing, then it's just a matter of doing it, right?
Was there a medium, Ricky, when you were younger as a boy that captivated you? Was it movies? Was it TV? Was it seeing maybe someone speak publicly? Because I find that everyone's got sort of a bug, right? My son just turned 14, and I will tell you, watching movies now with him that are sort of, I'm not going to say guy movies like action at all, but like movies about male relationships and bonding and friendship. It's so powerful to have that experience with him. And it makes me think back how my love of movies has really been kind of a North Star for my love of public speaking and the audience and the experience.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that there's, just a crux with it, but I mean, I grew up, I have an older brother who's 7 years older than me. So all the things that he was doing at 13, 14, and 15 or watching, I was technically exposed to it. I'm watching the Nightmare on Elm Street at 7 years old and things like that. So maybe I was exposed to a little bit too much, but I was always a music guy growing up. I was in a band, I played drums, I played saxophone. And there was always a level of teamwork and camaraderie that went into those sorts of settings. And I was also in a lot of team sports at that time. So I was always just, again, the middle child, always wanting to develop relationships with people. So it wasn't anything in particular, but I think just having that kind of collaboration feeling throughout my whole life. You're never going to be the oldest, you're never going to be the youngest, you're never going to be the baby of the family, you're never going to be the firstborn who's admired and revered. You're just going to be the guy in the middle, right?
Yeah.
But you kind of realize, and you take stock of what's going on in your life. You're like, wait, I know this person who does this, and I know a person who needs that. And you just find examples of that throughout your whole life. And then ultimately, the bureau business is almost exactly that,
And Nausheen, I so appreciate that, Ricky, and thank you for being, I guess, trusting the question and going down the rabbit hole, just talking about how scary some of those times were for you in the transition from the agency and those sorts of things. I would think that was a masterclass for you, Nausheen, just in trying to get up to speed on the industry and sort of the operational side of you to really take notes and say, okay, if I'm one, you want to support your husband. Two, you want to create something that's viable as a business, just if you want to start a family, right? What was that period of time like for you? Because sometimes I find that's the hardest when you have couples that work together, right? You want to be the rock there, the gravity, the force of gravity that keeps things sort of grounded. You want to inspire, but you have to acknowledge maybe the pain and the PTSD of whatever that previous work experience was.
Maybe it's me being naive. I don't really know what it is. Honestly, because I think back and I'm like, what was my headspace when we decided to do this? Like, how come I was just like, screw it, we're doing it. Like, I'm just going to gamble. It's fine. But I feel like if I look back on my life, I've had a lot of transitions. I moved from Singapore to America. I kind of started a whole different thing, personal life, was remarried and things like that. So I think I've always felt, no, don't worry, it'll be fine. It's going to be an adventure. So I think that if I really was honest with it, I just was like, it's just an adventure. We're going to try it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I'll land on my feet. We'll figure it out. But damned if I don't try. That's really kind of, I think, the attitude it was. So, but in terms of like trying and wanting to succeed at it, what I found is I loved it in the learning. And I was like, this makes so much sense for my personality. This makes so much sense for me. I wake up every day just kind of excited, like what's new, what's happening. And also it kind of get to build my own. The truth is I get to like build my own schedule. I get to build my time. And it was about creating a space where I could be available for our son, which I knew we wanted before we started. So I was like, okay, this is like, I'm just envisioning this. This is what's going to happen for us. So let's try it this way. So yeah, it's a bit of naivety, a bit of like, screw it, let's go. Devil may care type of energy.
I think if there was a period where she was actually stressed is before there was a website, before we even had our CRM in place. I kind of go to her and say, you got to write a contract. And then she's looking at me like, who are you talking to? How are you doing an event right now?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I'm like, look, I have a lot of people who still want to work with me. Again, you develop relationships and people will follow you throughout those relationships, no matter what you do. And especially if you're able to help them doing the things that you did before and where you developed that partnership. I think for her, it was kind of like, oh, wait, there's a legal side to this. There's a contract side to this. Yeah. I got to make sure that everything's in order because I'm just, I'm the sales guy at that point.
Yeah, that's the safety, right? Once you know those things are in order, right, then you can build. And that's what I think is the juxtaposition of building something that supports the building of dreams for other people while also finding the dream that you guys can build together and do that in concert. That's threading a needle that I think a lot of people would struggle with, and you seem to do it quite nicely in that regard. I'll sort of close with this as we open back up to Mirjana and talk a little bit about just the industry and a broader conversation. But I'm curious because I do experience you as very different, and I say that as a compliment. I mean that sincerely. How do you understand sort of the myths out there about the industry and those that seem like the gatekeepers and speakers all the time? There's sort of a lot of hot air out there about the way the industry is run, and not a lot of it feels like it's a direct connect when people have these opinions. And yet I find you guys to be so genuine that I would think that there are times when you want to sort of break through that noise and let people know that no, there is an option out here, whether it's a potential client or a speaker that just hasn't found their footing yet, and they're sort of swimming, behind just a slew of rosters that are stacked. How do you break away from that or understand that and use it to your advantage?
Interesting way to say it. I feel from what I've seen in my transition, and by all means, he's been in the world much longer. There has definitely been like sort of a change in the past 3 years with how each bureau interacts with each other. I think the stories I used to hear from him, the industry folks were really tight-lipped and very much like, don't look at my work, don't look at my work. And then when I came into it, I felt like things started softening up, and then the pandemic hit, and I think it felt really much more opened up at that stage. And all these conversations that we're having, we have our lovely like industry power hour, and it's been such like a much more collaborative feeling. So maybe the timing was just right with our genuineness when coming into this, because I don't think I ever held that old way of thinking, if you want to think of it as old way of thinking. So I think I've had the benefit of feeling already very comfortable just being transparent. That's kind of where my headspace is at with that.
Yeah,
I mean,
for me, I've seen such an evolution in the bureau industry. I guess at the beginning it was so closed off, to Nausheen's point. What all the stories I tell her were, don't talk to other agents, don't talk to other agencies, don't share ideas with them, really just send them the basic information when you're asking for another speaker. Yeah. And again, I mean, this goes to how I kind of conduct my personal life. I don't have any family on here, but my family would be the first to say, it's like, Ricky's coming. He knows that this person doesn't like this person, and he's going to make sure those two people get together and start talking at the family dinner.
Yeah. Trust falls.
Why not? Because we just have to open up. And I just struggled with it, and just, even then, I mean, I love my old coworkers and things, but I think there was even sense of, this is my book of business. I'm not going to teach you how to do this. I have my clients, and sort of that. And I always just struggled with that. It's like, we're all in this together. I mean, we're all kind of working towards a common goal. The pandemic certainly opened up things because we had to rely on each other. Like, who knew what to do at that point, right? This is a first for our industry. I mean, this has directly hit the live event industry, worse than any recession, I think, that happened before, or any other sort of catalyst. But it forced us to kind of open up and say, how are you guys doing? Like, let's start looking at you all as people, not just the agents that we're not supposed to talk to, or the bureaus we're not supposed to interact with. And so that opened it up. But I think, yes, in the last few years, I think we have had so much collaboration. We're constantly talking to other bureaus, other agents. We're making time to meet other exclusive speakers of other agencies, and we just love it. I mean, we have to give that time to them, because it helps us get smarter in the industry, more versed, and it gives us a broader perspective of how we can become better each and every day.
And what I love about that, Mirjana, will bring you back in. What I love about that, Mirjana, is that I started with talking about this sort of, Batman had Robin and these sorts of things, and that they're the trusty sidekick. What I didn't realize, but now I've learned in spending time with this powerhouse couple, is that the trusty sidekick, it is not just about like the client or the speaker. It's actually a sidekick also thinking about the industry. Like, I hear open doors. I don't hear tight lips and brevity of information. I hear the opposite of that. And I think there's some that would say that, look, the industry is going to either win or sort of, I guess, sort of die in the middle here if we don't work together and collaborate, And so that is a revelation to me, and something that I'm sure that the people that you work with and the speakers you represent, that they wholeheartedly are saying, absolutely, that's why I'm with them.
Yeah. And honestly, like you're as an industry, we are talking about this right now. It's so interesting. We just did this other episode on differentiation, and we talked with some speaker bureaus. And at the end of it, I had some, behind the scenes conversations where agents were again saying, it's not even that we're in competition with each other, because there's a lot of business out there. So it serves us well and the industry well if we all as agencies talk about other agencies. I mean, at the top of the hour, Rod, you gave a nod to Outspoken and their differentiator. I'm sure Ricky and Nausheen, you both agree. And we're all sitting here going, hey, whether you choose our bureau or somebody else's bureau, choose a bureau, choose a partner, because to your point, Nausheen, it can be lonely out there. If you're a meeting planner and you have many hats to wear, you want to be working with a team like yours that knows a deeper dive into some of these speakers, that knows what these speakers are like on stage, off stage, that knows the deeper level of ideas. I think some of the best agents say, we're not selling speakers, we're selling ideas, your themes, right? You're talking about themes. And I think that's a big way that you sell to your buyers as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It is.
Absolutely. It's how, like, we're basically paying ourselves to just be educated about all of these things. Like, we're going to school 24 hours a day about what's a good speaker for this particular lane. So, like, why not utilize a bureau to help you and save yourself some time?
Yeah. Right.
And by all
exactly.
means, two-way conversation. The buyer asks, we say, hey, these are the options. You don't really like it. Don't worry. We're going to find something else. Now I can learn more about you. So it's like, sometimes it's that exploratory. They didn't ask themselves these questions deeply enough yet. So let me pull that out from you so that I can help you better.
I have a question, Marjana, for them, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
for the speakers that are listening to us live here. I'm curious if you can share with speakers what are there, when you think about those that you have politely, let's say, declined to work with, or it just wasn't a good fit. How do you understand that? Sometimes I think it's easy to say these are the things we look for, but it's like looking at artwork or a painting, and you look at the negative space to understand the value of the right. So
Yeah.
how do you talk about that? How should people understand the way in which you evaluate talent and think about their fit with you and Gravity?
Right. You want, I'll take this? You take this?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Be
So when
Batman.
with speaker and how we sort of figure out who we want to work with deeply. Well, ultimately, maybe talking about our model would be helpful. So we are a hybrid bureau. We do have exclusive speakers, close to about 20 that we work with, who we are their extension of their team. And then we also have a lot of folks that are just listed on our websites, like a lot of hybrid bureaus. So when we're thinking about somebody for exclusivity, we're really trying to figure out, does it make sense for you to actually have a bureau in your pocket, in the sense of, do you really want to give a commission to every book deal? So do you have enough volume that makes sense for us to work together? That's a start there monetarily for them. Like, does it make sense for you to send it over to us? But the second layer is, ultimately, when it comes to topic, we're industry agnostic. So we're very happy to entertain all the different lanes. But we do have, we will see, does it make sense with the types of clients that we work with, whether there's a lot more opportunity for that speaker to be part of our roster on an exclusive manner. And as far as really, like, it's more about that relationship. It's more about that, like, that's something you can't really put a thing on. It's just how we can communicate with each other. If they understand how a bureau works and where we are, or what we represent as an agent, meaning that they still have to be doing the work for themselves. But a speaker who comes and says, okay, you're going to book me now, right? 10 times, you're going to get all these gigs for me. The reality check is that I wish we could, but are you doing that for yourself? If you're doing a lot of that for yourself, then by all means, we can amplify the hell out of it. And we can definitely make sure that you're not leaving money on the table because you're not able to get to those inquiries, or you're not able to maybe get more creative on how much more you can sell outside of just that keynote. So we're that team that it can trust with that. But in terms of, like, choice wise, those are the basic metrics. Does it make sense for you to have a bureau in your back pocket?
You enjoy being on a Zoom with them, right? I mean, it's true, right? It's like, it's classic. If we like people, we want to work with them, right? So it's
and you want to know they're doing the work.
Yeah, right time, right place. A lot of the time, sometimes it's like,
but here's the differentiator, though. I do feel like, because of the saturated market, and when we started at the top of the hour, this new kind of speaker. I mean, it used to be like when I worked in the bureau world years ago, and we didn't have we were just starting with websites and different things. You had to know which bureaus you could call. You had to have contacts. It wasn't as easy to get to speakers as they are now. And it used to all be like, oh, all hail the agencies. We got to get into an agency. But today, there's a reciprocity that really needs to happen. The speakers are just as valuable as the agents. Nobody should be thinking they're more valuable than the other. The best partnerships are the ones where it's like the agencies know they have great clients and the speakers know they have to continue to do the work, show themselves on social media, write the books if you're writing the books, put out the information, get really good at your craft. You cannot, to your point, Nausheen, sit back and be like, great, I have this great bureau. Now the gigs are going to come in. You have to still continue to work and provide content to your great bureau partner. That great bureau partner showcases that content to their great clients. I mean, it's that kind of ecosystem that we need to really be aware of and build upon.
Yeah. Building that community. I see the speakers who are really kind of like getting requested for. It's interesting, celebrity, you have the celebrities, you have how do you get discovered? The most successful ones are really creating that community for themselves and really reaching out and really being like a voice within their space. And so it's up to us to be able to tap into that and understand, oh, wow, you're a celebrity in your own world. How do we, what does that world look like?
Yeah. And I love that I want to just add to that, the whole celebrity conversation. I often say these days, the celebrities can be sold by name alone, right? But look at Matthew McConaughey. I mean, he is someone that easily the agency can sell just by name. Anybody can't, all of that. But he has really put himself out there with some thought leadership, with some depth that you really want to get to the heart of his ideas. Like, that's exciting to me. And the agencies that recognize that don't just sit back and go, oh, I could just sell Matthew by his name. They'll figure out the topic. Dig a little deeper, like figure out the ways that you're going to position him in different ways. And so I don't know, I think that's important too, like where the industry is today. Even these celebrities are going to start saying, hey, I want to work with the agency that wants to get to know me, that wants to get to know the things I care about, Yeah. And then there you're going to have the other ones that are like, this is the seventh thing on my rung. I don't really care. Bring me some gigs. I'll say no to most of them. There's that reality.
And I think we're seeing sort of a vested interest by speakers to be involved in the process. And, if we definitely welcome it, right? If I send something to Dr. Rod about a brief and, hey, are you available? I think 10 years ago, it's, that Dr. Rod would say, yes, I'm available. Now we have so many tools. We have so many different things that we can rely on, where a speaker now comes back and says, yes, I'm available. I looked at a trend report, what I can tie in, and I think this would be relevant to your buyer here. How do you think that sounds?
You're exactly right. I can't tell you. Just hearing that, my brain fires. Because it's so true. Because I think you want to think about. I remember this years ago, but whenever back in PowerPoint days, right? So I would never take one PowerPoint and just repeat it, for these presentations or whatever I was doing, professional development work and that kind of thing. And my wife would say, like, why are you doing this to yourself? I'm like, no, I want every time to be custom, like I have a bakery and it's the old days or something like that. But there's something about that, being able to collaborate and say, gosh, what is a unique experience? What's going on right now? What are the data points? How can we tell different stories? So I appreciate you bringing that up, Ricky. That's so powerful.
It really makes the difference between the speaker getting booked. When you're a buyer and you have a proposal with five speakers, the one that gives the video, the one that also gives, hey, this is a tailored perspective for this particular event, usually wins the proposal. And like, while we ask a speaker, it's much more wonderful when a speaker already knows, okay, this is what I'm going to respond with. Because like some of them are like, yeah, I'm available. And you're like, okay, great. And then the other one comes in with like a little extra homework. You're like, all right, here we go. Like,
oh, by the way, here are my 50 manufacturing testimonials. By the way.
Game on.
Finance testimonials. I mean, it's great. I think, with the way that data can be captured, with all the tools that we have. I mean, Chris Dyer, I don't know if he's on here, but creating your own GPT for things to help make it easier for agents to sell. I mean, there's so many things.
He's doing incredible things. Yeah.
And it just takes, just that a little bit much more effort, because if a speaker can't mirror what they would do on their own other than when a bureau reaches out, then they shouldn't expect to win the business as well. Because if they were climbing a mountain to win the booking and it's just them doing it, can we get the same effort from me on this side? Because we're also trying to win this as well, not only for you, but for the agency as well. So
yeah, I love that. Well, I know we're close to close here. Rod, unless you have any final question, I want to sort of like ask one.
Yeah, I'm good. This has just been such I love meeting good people that I would love to have dinner with. Like there's something about the energy that these two have that says, like, I absolutely think that if I spent time with people that they represent, they would say, "Oh, I'm never leaving them." I leave
we're
them.
right by the airport.
Thank you.
We're
Yeah.
right by SFO, so,
We are by
yeah.
SFO, so if ever you need a ride, with 3
Ricky,
minutes,
where are you? I just landed.
for real.
I love that. Listen, this conversation and hearing Rod's conversation with you just solidified the thing I knew in my heart. And from knowing you for these, last couple of years that we've gotten to know each other. But, and Ricky, you shared it when you talked about Nausheen and this partnership, where when you talk about challenges, you don't say, well, we can't do that. You say, how can we do that? And we can do that. So like you're the can do sort of, I look at you as a boutique firm that really dives deep, but has far reach. And I think it's incredible. And with that can do spirit and vision in mind, I'd love to ask both of you just to share, what's the one thing that excites you the most about the industry now? Even as people might look and go, there's so much market saturation, so many players. How do we get to know all these speakers? How do we service the industry? Whatever the challenge is, the messiness of it all, what excites you the most about it right now?
Go for it, please.
Yeah, there's so many different things, but I don't even know if this is a real answer to the question, but I am so looking forward to going to convention later on this year. We've tried to go. Our kid's birthday is actually the same weekend as convention has been in years past, and now that it's in LA, I think for me, it's what excites me is finally getting to be in a room, not a virtual room, but in a physical room with all of our industry peers that we have been chatting with for some over a decade, and for some new connections that we chat, once every couple of weeks and stuff, Mirjana, you included. I think it's an opportunity for us to finally be able to put a face to the name, for people to meet us as well, not virtually. So that's something I'm super excited about.
Yeah, it's going to GSIA. That's our Global Speaking Industry Association, the first one under that new name. But yeah, Nausheen, what about you?
I'm excited. And maybe this is more of a personal response because we are a lean, mean team here at Gravity. And I have to say, with all the tools that's coming out, yes, AI will take your job, but it also is helping me do my job so much more efficiently. It's been kind of crazy how much automation I've done just between the both of us, and how much further I feel we as just individuals can get much more efficient. So the things that I've been building, so for me, every day I'm waking up going, oh, what else can I create and build out and make my speakers' lives easier? Because I've been doing a lot of like what Rod was saying. I've been in my own tank for the past 6 weeks.
And guess what? It's clearly opened up more time for you, I think, to even meet more speakers. So again, I think that is, that's the beauty of it. AI is helping us come together more and go deeper. So I do hope everybody looks at that. Well, I have to say, when I see you both at convention, I will be tapping into all of that, those great conversations, and learning from you, and just looking forward to celebrating with you. I think just to wrap this, this is an incredible industry that we're all a part of. I always say, what's the trifecta, right? You bring a great speaker to the stage, you have a great agency that brings them to the stage, you have strategic marketers in the background. And now, to your point, Nausheen, you're kind of doing some of that too, but then you have these adjacent agencies like what we do, and sit and go deeper into it as well. But we all work together. And if we do that more together, we truly will rise. We will learn AI together. We will get better. And I don't know about all of you, but I want to see more positive stories in headlines, in the news, on the news. And I think our industry serves that purpose. And I'm just grateful to be doing it with all of you. Rod, any final words there from you?
I don't want to mess that up. That is, it's a nice fine point on the power of what we're all exposed to, and what we're passionate about, and what's coming next.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Ricky and Nausheen. Thank you all for joining Stories in the Room. We look forward to doing another one next month, and let's just keep doing it together. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, everyone who tuned in.
Bye.